this. In a matter of, like, what, 2-3 days? Yeah. Yeah. Between 2-3 days, I managed to get back to where I was on this, so I might as well just get this started. Start grabbing people at the door. Or if not, or something. I don't know. Don't care. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. And one thing I also need to do is I need to get my sheet out. That's not the one. Here's some change. Ah, damn it. Let's see. Damn, I got a lot of papers I need to look up. Okay, here we are. So I got my quote-unquote cheat sheet at the ready. Because you never want to play any sort of game without a cheat sheet. You always have to have your map, so therefore playing with a map. Alright, so September 10th, 5:55 p.m. District Court. Lobby number 1. Let's fucking go. No kidding, it does. Oh, right. Oh, man. Yeah, I know, right? It's just not the same, you know? It's just like, Now, Yakuza was like, Now, Yakuza, that's something totally different. It's like, yeah, all you're doing is knocking people left and right. No problems there. Sound settings. Forgot to turn on the sound. 14. There we go. I will be soon right back where I left off on Project Cross Zone. That's for damn sure.
What is this incredibly overpowering sweet scent? Smells like flowers. Uncle Bad, is this it?
Isn't that Detective Bad and Kay over there?
looks like she managed to escape the bailiff.
No, that's not quite it.
Oh, too bad, but you're too pretty.
I think you're still a bit too young to be wearing that. Well, since you found it, I guess I can let you keep it.
Thanks, I'll treasure it always.
Those two seem to be getting along rather well. Oh, here. Got something else.
Yay, thank you, Uncle Bad. Earlier, I ate one of these with gummy.
Gummy. Oh, you mean gumshoe.
Gummies. He was trying to be nice to me because I was going to get in trouble. And then he got in trouble because he lied to protect me. Gummy. I know he didn't kill Daddy.
Don't cry. That would be sad if you saw you cry.
That's right.
Okay.
Oh, it's the mister from before the lady, too.
Don't you think it would be a good idea to go home for the time being?
You are not involved in the investigation, so it's for the best if you do.
Actually, I'm Uncle Bad's assistant. So I'm related to the investigation.
Is that so, Detective Bad? Yeah, I guess.
What? You were just scolding us like kids to not mess up the crime scene? And now you let this child run free? Why?
People are free to investigate things outside of the actual crime scene. You also had a few things you wanted to look into. Got a problem with that? I don't have a problem with that. But I'm curious as to what Miss Yu is looking into.
Uncle Bad, I've got to go look somewhere else now, okay?
Alright. Count on
Oh, that's right. Hey, mister.
Yes, what is it?
Oh, you know Gummy really isn't the bad guy I mean it. So, please, find the real bad guy, okay?
I won't forgive whoever did this. But in the absence of the perfect piece of testimony and evidence, there is no one else who could be the true culprit other than Detective Gumshoe. She wandered off while I was pondering. Detective Bad, what exactly was Kay searching for? Nothing that concerns you, boy.
Oh, and I suppose it has something to do with Kay?
It does, because she's Faraday's daughter. Anyway, hurry up and get to the point. I don't have time to waste. Sounds like he'd rather be left alone. I have something I'd like to confirm with you once again. Don't have anything to say to it. Ho ho! Be that as it may, we still have questions that we need answers to. Now then, first of all, what is the overpowering smell that is permeating this room? Upon entering this room, I thought I was going to suffocate! It's that ultra-strong perfume you wears. She spilled some of it. I was having a bad time with it myself. think twice and open the window, but that smell's still here. Perfume, huh? So the sweet scent in the air is perfume.
Well, it's giving off quite a stench. I bet it's some cheap no-name brand.
She said it's a famous brand from overseas.
It's a knockoff. Yes, definitely a knockoff.
How would you know, Francisca? May, really, how do you know? No disrespect, but she forced one of those bottles on me. Here, little girl, you can have it.
I was born for a much more expensive and fine perfume. However, seeing as how you just happen to have a spare, I suppose I'll take it. Reiji Mitsurugi! You will hold on to this bottle without fail!
Why can't she ever be honest about her wants? Your perfume. So now we have the perfume Miss Yu wears. Just fantastic. Is that all you wanted to talk about? If so, I'm going back to investigate. Actually, I still have a few other things I wish to inquire about. Well, so you were in this room the entire recess. Like I said, I made a call to the precinct to get that big lug down here. But other than that, I was waiting for the recess to end in here.
At least your story is consistent.
Earlier, you stated that you were in this lobby with Miss Yu. Yep, I ran into her in the hallway. She said she wanted to talk to me about something, so we came in here.
Then what you're saying is that until Detective Gumshoe's arrival, you and Miss Yu were in two different locations?
Yes, I am.
Interesting. Speaking of that lawyer, she seemed to have great dislike for you.
Let's see, Miss Yu is the sister of the victim of the KG8 incident.
And as I recall, Detective Bad was the lead detective on the case.
I wonder if the reason for her disdain isn't simply because you failed to guard Cece, but because you were on the lead detective on the case. You knew. I also know that today's trial involving the Kodopian Embassy staff member is being referred to as the second KG8 incident. And now then, Detective, I believe it's time you were honest with me and told me the truth behind your relationship with Miss Yu and Mr. Faraday and the KG8 incident. If you already know that much, I guess you'd be alright too. Now then, I'd like to ask you a few questions about the KG8 incident. It's not exactly a happy story, other than the people who were directly involved. You too will be the first to hear what I'm about to tell. The honest truth is I had a lollipop this entire time. The honest truth behind the KG8 incident. Spill it, Kojak! Faraday, you and I. As you already know, we three were involved with the KG8 incident. Faraday and I, we were originally on the trail of a smuggling ring. You and mean the smuggling case involving one of the Amano Group's secretaries? That trial was just a front.
A facade?
Yeah. But the case became tainted. All because the witness who was going to testify about the Amano Group's ties to the smuggling ring, CCU, was killed. Then what became of the secretary who was arrested? His name was Colin Deveray. To be honest, the guy didn't know a thing about the smuggling ring. But he confessed to knowing about it anyway. Deveray was probably being intimidated by the big boss man. Just another scapegoat. Boss man of the Amano Group? He seriously can't mean this Mono. That can't be right. It's probably just Detective Bad's personal hypothesis. What is he trying to do suspecting Mr. Mono of being involved with smuggling?
I suppose it would have been quite difficult to secure an acquittal after he confessed. But the man who killed CCU, Monaco Chen, was a completely different person. But since he's already been acquitted once of her murder, Mr. Faraday, how could you have let him go?
If I remember correctly, I heard that Mr. Faraday had an important piece of evidence stolen from him. That wasn't Faraday's fault. It was mine. I wasn't vigilant enough. Faraday, Cece, I was supposed to protect them both. Yes, you did mention that as well. About how Detective Bad was supposed to guard her sister. But even I, who was supposed to protect them, I fell into their trap.
What kind of trap?
The holes in this jacket are a testament to that. You mean you were fired upon?
You were shot that many times in one gunfight?
No. Only about half of these are from that case. But the reason I continue to wear this jacket is to remind myself of the lessons I learned from the KG-8 incident. I see. I couldn't protect CCU, and the suspect was found not guilty. We had hit a brick wall, as far as the law was concerned. And that's when she came into the courtroom, the victim's sister. That's when I first met Callista Yu. About when you first met Miss Yu. It was on the day the verdict of the KG-8 incident was handed down, was it not? Yes. Faraday and I apologized to her from the bottom of our hearts. It was all we could do, but just saying you're sorry won't bring my sister back, she said. And then she gave me a hard slap across the face.
Then, she certainly had a lot of self-control to stop at just a slap. If it was me, not even 100 lashes would have been punishment enough.
I suppose not. Of course, May, you happen to like slapping people around with your whip, so, that's you. You said it herself, that she never wanted to see either of us ever again.
But after that, you've seen her many times over, correct?
Yeah, Faraday and I, even after the KG-8 incident, had come to clues. We couldn't continue to hunt down the smuggling ring and got involved in a variety of cases. But it was no use. We cracked so many different cases. but the result was always the same. We couldn't find the real mastermind behind the ring.
Is the ring really that big?
It was in the pursuit of the ring that we met you once again. It was during another trial related to the smuggling ring. Faraday was the prosecutor, and I, as lead detective, took to the witness stand. She appeared out of the blue as the defense attorney. Her client was related to the smuggling ring, and she was defending them. Yeah. You was pursuing the ring as best she could as a lawyer. I think she defended Rail this time for the same reason. Come to think of it, Miss Yu did say something to the same effect. I have my own agenda. I'm still on the hunt for leads regarding the KG-8 incident, alright? And for that, you have not a single qualm about defending a known killer. Don't put words in my mouth. I said no such thing. The only way I had to get close to Mr. Rell was to be his lawyer. I had no intention of covering for him ever. So don't you dare suggest I was going to. It does not matter what her reason is. Helping a criminal is just despicable. You're so naive, little girl. I could have stolen this lollipop from you. That's how naive you are. How dare you insult the daughter of a Von Kellner! Just like us, you felt that she had hit the limit of what the law could do. That's all. The law is merely a tool. There's no limit to it, only the skill of the craftsman. You two are still too young, but one day, you'll know what I mean. But enough sidetracking. What matters is that we met you again in pursuit of the smuggling ring. That's all. So what was your relation to Mr. Faraday? You even seem to know Kay fairly well. I met him when he was a rookie prosecutor. Known him ever since. And Kay, I've known her since the day she was born. Faraday and I, we cracked quite a few cases together. But you two seem to have made no progress at all in the Yatagarasu case. Did we touch enough? I only have one thing to say to you. No one knew more about the Yatagarasu than me and Faraday. That's why I was called upon to testify in today's trial. To prove that Rail was not the real Yatagarasu, which I would have done if he hadn't turned around and accused Faraday. After the accusation, I was asked to testify, but this time, to prove or disprove the accusation, but I guess I won't be doing that either. I sense that there's more to that statement than meets the eye. Perhaps a bit more digging into the Yatagarasu is what's necessary. You claim to know much about the Yatagarasu. Would you care to share what you know with me? What you two should be looking for right now is proof of murderous intent towards Faraday and Rail. I agree, which is exactly why I'm asking you about the Yatagarasu. What? The KG-8 incident and this second KG-8 incident. Both of these cases are tied to the smuggling ring. And in both of these cases, the witness who was to testify about the ring was murdered. However, there is one point in which they differ. And that is the presence or absence of the great thief, Yatagarasu. Mr. Rail claimed to be the Yatagarasu. However, in the middle of the trial, he suddenly declared Mr. Faraday to be the real Yatagarasu. Then, during the recess, they were both killed. Don't you find that to be the least bit odd?
Reiji Mitsurugi!
Miles Edgeworth.
Stop beating around the bush and just spit it out already!
I believe that there must be some reason that the two men suspected of being the Yatagarasu were both killed at the same time. Reason, huh? And so, in order to catch Mr. Faraday and Mr. Rail's cold-blooded killer, I feel that I need to learn as much as I can about the Yatagarasu. If it will help you solve this case. Then I'll tell you. I'll tell you the reason why we've never caught the Yatagarasu.
What was that? That sudden outburst for? You almost made me whip you by accident!
Ugh! It still accidentally whipped me anyway! There are three main reasons why the Yatagarasu will always be one step ahead. First, the Yatagarasu always knows the exact location of the target object. Second, the Yatagarasu always knows exactly how to disarm the security system. Third, the Yatagarasu doesn't leave a single shred of evidence behind, ever. I see. So those are the Yatagarasu's special traits.
Sounds like an incredibly elusive gift.
The Yatagarasu has never been caught on tape. Never tries to draw anyone's attention. Yeah, really? Yeah, that's number 4. That's the unspoken one. And would never do something as lowbrow as commit murder. That's how I knew that Rail wasn't the real Yatagarasu right away.
But you can't use that sort of logic on its own to prove that he wasn't.
Listen, little girl, I'm not done talking yet. What's different about this time was that evidence related to the smuggling ring was sent to the police. And the sender was none other than the one who infiltrated the Kodopian embassy, the Yatagarasu. The Yatagarasu sent the evidence. Until now, the Yatagarasu would always publicize any corrupt dealings through the mass media. But not this time. The evidence this time was something only Faraday and I, and a select few others knew about. In that case, how can you be so sure that it was the Yatagarasu who sent it? Well, that's easy. A special card that only the Yatagarasu uses was attached. Says cat's eye on it. What? That's how I can be so sure. And just what sort of card is it? Here, take a look at this article. Whenever the Yatagarasu wants to publicize something, a white card is sent along with the stolen information. But when we questioned Rail about what was sent along with the white card, Rail had no idea what it was.
how Detective Bad knew that Mr. Rell was a phony. Thank you very much. I have a better understanding of the Yatagarasu now.
Excuse me, Mr. Edgeworth. Yes. His Honor would like to transfer the evidence from today's trial over to you. So if you please head over to the courtroom, it'd be much appreciated, sir. Understood. I'll be there shortly.
Detective Bad, what does the law mean to you?
Finding the answer to that question is the only reason I'm still alive. I became a prosecutor to find the answer to that question myself. And to play a part in ensuring that all criminals everywhere are found guilty. Sometime later. Oh, sure, Mr. Edgeworth. It appears that His Honor is still a bit dispirited. For the first time today, I experienced what it's like to stand at the witness stand. I now have a greater appreciation for just how hard it is to give testimony.
There's no reason for you to be undepressed about it, Your Honor. As a judge, no one expects you to think about anything other than the verdict.
Nay, there is no need to further depress His Honor.
But I am not trying to, Myers.
Your Honor. Your Honor, I've come to collect the evidence that was to be transferred to me. Your Honor, the evidence? Your Honor! Oh! Yes, can I help you?
I'd like to collect the evidence now, sir. Your Honor, do you think you can stay focused long enough to at least do your job?
Yes, I'm sorry. And I would accept that the defense attorney has yet to arrive. She's busy with the investigation, so let's keep this brief, shall we? Very well. In that case, please confirm that all the pieces of evidence are present. Furthermore, the evidence that was used in the murders of Mr. Faraday and Mr. Red are also included, so please go ahead and use them in your investigation into their case. Understood, Your Honor. A piece of evidence that was used in the murder of those two men. This could be a very good chance for me to find new leads regarding their case. And maybe even something that will finally lead me to the truth. I place all the evidence over at the prosecutor's bench for you. I see. Thank you very much. I will go and confirm that they are all accounted for.
It's the viewing gallery. This is where the reefers sit when they come to watch. It's situated at the same height as the judge's bench.
I wonder if that's to represent the intense scrutiny of each and every case from all sides.
Reggie Mitsurugi, are you or are you not man enough to stand up to all of those eyes?
What sort of... Of course I am man enough!
Bitch, I love you too.
evidence that Monsieur Pipette is just sitting here on this table. You know, you can't just walk off if you like. Of course I do. Monsieur must have been caught off guard by her client's sudden accusation. I wonder how she would have defended Mr. Rell in that case if he was served. So this is the evidence related to today's Colombian Embassy trial for Mr. Faraday's bag.
You mean the evidence bag that was on the table in lobby number 2, right?
Yes, finally we can take a look at the evidence itself and not just data about it. Let us be sure to thoroughly examine them while we have the time.
Agreed. I want to take a good look at all of the evidence from the Embassy of Murder too.
And why is that?
Because I still do not fully understand what today's trial was about.
Ugh! Don't point your crop at me just because you don't know something.
And do not try to order me around just because Papa chose you today.
I see someone is still sore about not being hit by Mr. Von Karma.
It is also weird to see the knife up close.
Would you like to see it closer? So we've knife, a gun, an envelope, and what's this organizer doing here? Oh, that's right, I completely forgot to tell you. About what, Your Honor? They found Mr. Faraday's personal organizer inside that evidence bag of his. Detective Bat requested it be passed along to you, said it would help you in education. Detective Bat said it?
What a strange stroke of luck.
Well, never look a gift horse in the mouth. Might as well flip through it too. I won't rest until I've inspected every suspicious-looking nook and cranny. This gun was originally used to kill the Colombian Embassy staff member when the crime was reported. The responding police found Mr. Rell still holding it, which led to its immediate arrest.
And then, this gun took the original shooter's life. How ironic.
Indeed. There doesn't seem to be anything else we can learn from this piece of evidence. Mr. Faraday's organizer. It appears he was in the habit of using it.
It looks like he wrote his strategy for getting Mr. Rell convicted down in here.
I have collected the evidence I need to prove that Rell was a killer. Between the handgun Rell had on him when he was arrested and the surveillance tape, I should be the one to prove that he was the one. It appears that Mr. Faraday honestly believed that Mr. Rell was the killer in the case. The sound of his handgun going off was recorded with superb clarity on the surveillance video. I also have evidence that I can use to prove that Rell is not the real Yatagarasi.
It would prove that he had proof that Mr. Rell was not the Yatagarasi.
No matter how he may try to play it, as long as I have the Yatagarasi's key, I can prove he's a phony. If I should present it to him in court, it should clear everything up.
And he apparently also had a very definitive piece of evidence.
It has been a long battle. I hope that this will finally bring it to an end. Yes, I believe that Mr. Faraday was well prepared to
to discredit any claim Mr. Rel may have made about being the real Yat-Grasso.
And he had a way to prove that Mr. Rel was the guilty party in the embassy murder.
This organizer is a clue straight from Mr. Faraday. I'll have to take my time and give it a thorough read later.
Look, there's a picture stuck between these pages here.
It appears to be
A key. And a rather ornate one at that. Just look at the design on the handle. The craftsmanship is superb. Could this be the Yat-Grasso's key, as Faraday mentioned in his organizer? The Yat-Grasso's key?
Detective Bad said something earlier. What's different about this time was that evidence related to the smuggling ring was sent to the police. And the sender was none other than the one who infiltrated the Cadopian embassy, the Yat-Grasso. The Yat-Grasso sent evidence. Until now, the Yat-Grasso would always publicize any corrupt dealing throughout the matchmaking. But not this time. The evidence this time was something only Faraday and I, and a select few others knew about.
Mr. Faraday must have been trying to keep the secret key safe.
As the prosecutor on both the Yat-Grasso and smuggling ring cases, that's to be expected. It's the knife that was used to kill Mr. Faraday.
Who would have thought that such a beautiful piece of art could be used for such a cruel act?
And it's never crossed your mind that you used your riding crop for the wrong purpose?
That's it. What is it?
Mr. Faraday didn't mention anything about a knife in his organizer.
That certainly is odd.
The weapon that was used to kill the Cadopian embassy staff member was the gun. But if that's the case, then where did the knife that used to murder Mr. Faraday come from?
Isn't it obvious it was brought into the courthouse? Isn't it obvious it was brought into the courthouse by Mr. Rel? That's the only logical conclusion, right?
No, because it's not that easy to smuggle a weapon like that in here. Every person who enters the courthouse doors is checked thoroughly for contraband. Furthermore, the suspect was handcuffed, making it impossible for him to bring a knife as large as this inside.
In that case, how do you suppose this knife ended up inside the courthouse?
I need to think carefully. There's nothing related to the knife written anywhere in Mr. Faraday's organizer. However, it's a fact that this knife came from Mr. Faraday's evidence bag. Conversely, there's one item listed in Mr. Faraday's organizer that no one has claimed to have seen today. So in order to solve this mystery, I believe I will need to take another good look at the evidence.
Eiji Mitsurugi, can I take the fact that you have yet to answer me to mean that you do not have an answer for me?
Actually, I do know the answer, Lee.
What? Then what is it?
One of the pieces of evidence we've been holding has been hiding a secret on its own. And it was through this piece of evidence that the knife was brought into this courthouse. The key. This Yat-Grasso's key, Mr. Faraday mentions in his organizer.
This is how the knife was brought into the courthouse.
You're not making any sense, Oriji Mitsurugi.
You just need to look a bit closer, Francisca, to see what I mean. Do not. Don't the color. Do not the color and the ornamentation of the key's handle remind you of anything. Yeah, it looks like a knife.
They do remind me of the knife.
Very good. Both the Yatagarasu key in this photo and the murderous knife, or one and the same, have this very unique design on their handles. Furthermore, even though Mr. Faraday mentions the Yatagarasu key, the only object we found at the crime scene was the knife.
You don't seriously mean to say...
It appears that you finally caught up. And yes, I do mean to say that these two pieces are in fact one and the same.
But that's impossible!
Even if that is what you believe, we should still investigate this possibility. Now then, let us examine this knife in a little more detail. Bam!
I can't believe it turned into a key. To think there was such a trick to this thing.
So the weapon used to kill Mr. Faraday is actually the key the Yatagarasu stole. This piece of information is more critical than anything we've learned up until now.
Frankly, I'm shocked.
Mr. Faraday only mentioned the key aspect of this piece of evidence in his organizing. It is possible that even he had no idea that the key was hiding a knife blade inside. Hidden blade.
But if that is true, then only someone who knew about the trick Then only someone who knew about the key to knife trick could have killed Mr. Faraday.
Even among law enforcement, this key was top secret. We're looking for someone who knew even more about the key than even Mr. Faraday. Meaning that the only person it could be is the one who sent the key in the first place. The great thief Yatagarasu.
Then maybe Mr. Red really was the Yatagarasu, and he was the one who killed Mr. Faraday. Isn't that one possible scenario?
No, not really. Especially since Mr. Faraday was absolutely convinced that Mr. L was not the Yatagarasu. Besides, as Detective Bad said earlier, when we questioned Rel about what was sent along with the white car, Rel had no idea what it was.
I see. Alright then, I guess the person who knows the trick behind this key is someone else, and that person is the real Yatagarasu.
Seems that the key is truly the key to solving this case. I took a quick look through these documents before the trial started.
And I wasn't even afforded the opportunity to skim it.
I suppose I should explain to you
Yes, you should. Perfectly and in its entirety, if you please.
On the night of September 8th, an embassy staff member was killed in front of the embassy. The staff member died of shock due to being shot in the heart. Mackerel was brought in that night as a suspect and thoroughly questioned, because the murder weapon was found on him, for which he was arrested on the spot.
A simpleton of a man, that is what he was.
Perhaps he was, for the weapon wasn't the only incriminating evidence we had. Mr. Rill was caught in the act on film by a security camera.
He was an even bigger simpleton than I thought. I cannot believe he did not notice a security camera.
The Cadobian Embassy's security system is supposedly very well designed. He may have simply not been aware that there was a camera in the area.
So, have you seen the contents of the video for yourself?
Yes, the surveillance camera took the security camera. Yes, the surveillance video the security camera took was played during the trial by Mr. Faraday. You can clearly identify Mr. Rill on it. Even the sound of the gunshot was crystal clear.
So the footage included sound, huh? I don't think I'd ever want to see a moment of someone's death in real life.
That's we're short one piece of evidence. And the piece of evidence that's missing is the surveillance video that was played in court.
The surveillance video? How could a piece of evidence just disappear? Where did it go?
The video showing the moment in which Mr. Rill committed the murder. Where could it have gone indeed? Are you done with your inspection of the evidence? Yes, I'm finished. However, Your Honor, I am missing a single piece of prosecutorial evidence.
Your Honor, were you derelict in your duties?
What? No! I dare not lick my duties. What? What do you take me for? No, Your Honor, the most important piece of evidence in today's trial. The surveillance video is not among the evidence you laid out for me. But I brought Mr. Faraday's whole bag with me from the crime scene. Maybe the tape still somewhere at the crime scene. There's something wrong here. Something about this missing piece of evidence. It would appear that for me to find the answers I seek, I will have to pay another visit to the defendant. I will have to pay another visit to the scene of the crime. Defendant lobby number 2. 6 p.m. The sun has went down. That's Detective Bad. But who is he with?
I've never seen that officer before.
So, did you find him?
No, not yet, and I've looked everywhere.
I see. Well then, please continue the search.
Understood, I'll continue the search.
Heh. So you're the one running the show. Prosecutors like you shouldn't even be allowed at crime scenes. How dare you! Just who do you think you are? I think the music just said who he is. Langji, y'all. Langji. What was that all about, and who was that man just now?
Whoever he was, I've never seen a more impudent officer in my life.
know that we're standing right here behind him? I know you're standing right behind me. What do you want, kids?
It looks like you were paying attention after all.
Of course I have eyes in the back of my head. So that matter isn't for vanity's sake. It's for him to keep an eye out on who or what is behind him at all times. So tell me, Detective Bad, who was that rude man just now? Came in here from the Republic of Shinfang to study. He's Agent Lang. He's trying everything he can to revive the lost honor of his family. He's traveling the world to study different philosophies of detainment from scratch. By visiting various police departments around the world, he has a lot of dedication. He's still just a rookie cop, but I sense a strong grudge of some sort for him. The guy's more useful than Gumshoe, even if he is rude.
Then, he sure has a lot of guts to come to this country and give prosecutors a hard time.
I agree. However, I can think of one lady that statement also applies to. Anyway, what was that agent looking for, Detective Bad?
Earlier, that little girl was poking around in lobby number 1 as well.
Like I said before, it's got nothing to do with the two of you. Fine, if this is the game I must play, then I will take this opportunity to draw out what he's been hiding and what happened in this room straight from him. Earlier you were in lobby number 1, and now you're here in lobby number 2. You are quite the busy man, Detective Bad. Multiple returns to a crime scene brings about success. That's what we detectives say. I see. In that case, you wouldn't mind if I asked about what happened again, correct? I don't have anything left to say to you, boy. Boy! You will see, I will draw my answer from you one way or another!
Would it kill you to help us even a tiny bit in our investigation?
Not really. I gave Faraday's notebook to the judge. That's helping, don't you think? Please, we are asking you for just a bit more of your cooperation. Don't push me. I'd like to ask once again about what happened around here at the time of the crime. I refuse to answer. Any more investigating you do would be easy. Besides, how am I supposed to answer questions about things I don't know about?
Things you do not know about. But aren't you supposed to know everything?
He should. Wait, is it possible? Maybe he doesn't know about the trick behind that piece of evidence. I should try showing it to him. It may prove to be the key to getting some answers from Detective Bad. Detective Bad, did you know of the existence of the item in this photograph? Of course I did. It is
my job to know everything related to the Yatagarasu case. In that case, let me ask you something.
Did you know that the knife that killed Mr. Faraday and this Yatagarasu's key?
One and the same? What? That's impossible!
It looks like he did not know after all.
This piece of evidence, which we call the Yatagarasu's key,
is actually a well-camouflaged knife.
Mr. Faraday was planning to use this Yatagarasu's key to prove that Mr. Rell was not the real Yatagarasu. Isn't that correct?
I guess so.
However, Mr. Faraday had no idea that it was, in fact, a knife.
Yeah, I have to admit, neither one of us knew that.
And if none of us knew, then no one in law enforcement knew either. How do we miss something as big as this? I noticed that since a little while ago you appeared to be searching for something. I presume that this key is what you were searching for.
Yeah, that's right.
And why were you searching for it?
Because I promised Faraday. I promised that I'd protect the key in my life.
But after he was killed, the key disappeared from Faraday's evidence book. Who would have thought that the key is what took Faraday's life? Detective Bad. So that we may find the truth, please testify for me once more. Alright. Well, it doesn't matter how many times I tell you what happened, nothing will change. Detective Bad, I ask that you please testify once more about what happened in lobby number 2 and what you experienced in lobby number 1. Our answer's still the same. And this is the last time I'm going to do this. That's fine, because I only need this one last time to clear everything up and find the truth behind this case. I was in lobby number 1 talking with you. You were talking about some trivial things. I heard the gunshot right before the trial was about to reconvene. When we heard it, you and I immediately dashed out into the hallway together. I saw Gumshoe goofing around there, and we all ran into lobby number 2.
It sounds like the exact same story he told us before.
Indeed, however, I feel that we have yet to draw out all the information that we can. Oh, we're going to get to the bottom of this. Until you heard the gunshot, did you notice anything else that was out of the ordinary? I didn't hear any other strange sounds until that gunshot. If the gunshot Detective Bad heard was really the one from the murder, that would give that other piece of evidence an entirely different meaning. I ask that you please amend your testimony with that statement just now. Sure. Oh, you mean this?
Objection!
Detective Bad, does this balloon fragment remind you of anything? It's the same color as the one Kay was holding.
Oh, so you know about the girl's balloon?
Yeah, I was sitting with her up in the gallery. During the recess, just before we split up, I filled that balloon up for her. Well, as you may have already surmised, this piece did indeed come from Kate's balloon. So, what about the balloon? I wonder if you might remember hearing this balloon pop at some point. What are you getting? This fragment was found in the hallway right in front of lobby number 2. Furthermore, it was the sound of this balloon popping that the judge mistook as a gunshot. So the sound that the judge heard was not actually a gunshot.
On top of that, His Honor said that he heard the balloon pop about 20 minutes before the trial was to reconvene.
Yes, which means that His Honor heard the balloon pop in the hallway when you were in lobby number 1, Detective Bad. And if you were in lobby number 1 at the time, you were close enough that you should have heard the balloon popping as well. So?
Oh, don't give me a show! We just proved that there is a flaw in your testimony.
The crackling of the truth is louder than the sound of your sweet naivete cracking. And since you kids don't seem to know, let me fill you in on something. Did you ever stop to think why the doors and walls of this place seem so rugged? It's because they were designed to keep secrets from being leaked.
What is that supposed to mean?
The doors and walls are super thick. The window panes are double layered. To top it all off, even the curtains are made of a special sound-absorbing material. Then you mean... Since I was shut up inside lobby number 1, there was no way I could have heard that sound.
No!
I knew that's what he was going to say.
Then that means that Scruffy's testimony is completely useless. If the rooms have some proof, then of course he wouldn't hear any sign of struggle.
That's also why it's only natural that I didn't hear the balloon popping. Now do you get it, kids?
Miles, I thought we were supposed to be the ones finding flaws in his logic. Not the other way around.
The other way around? It's not possible to hear the sound of a balloon popping if one were in lobby number 1. However, if we examine the situation in reverse, a person standing in the hallway should not be able to hear the real gunshot either. And yet, Detective Gumshoe claims to have heard it while he was standing in the hallway. Detective Bad, if that is the case, how exactly do you hear the gunshot? What did you mean? How? I just did. It would appear that you have yet to realize the contradiction in your own words. How so? If the rooms are as soundproof as you say, then how did the sound of a gunshot enter your ears? I see what you mean. I guess I'm more out of it.
Which means what exactly, Miles? In the end, what does it all boil down to?
It boils down to this. There must be a reason as to how Detectives Bad and Gumshoe heard a gunshot they theoretically couldn't have.
It looks like we need to examine the state of the scene of the crime again, huh?
State of the crime scene? Wait, can it be? It's that ultra strong perfume you wear. She spilled some of it. Anticipating the smell too noisy. Very loud television. Logic.
The surveillance video? How could a piece of evidence just disappear?
Missing evidence. Logic. Aha! Soka.
It's simply not possible for the killer to have escaped through barred windows. And yet the fragrance of perfume managed to escape from defendant lobby number 1. Of course, incorporeal things can move freely through these open barred windows.
Open windows. The criminal couldn't have made it through. But what about incorporeal things? Logic. So what if we had the open windows with a very loud TV?
Now, what else besides a smell can go both in and out of an open, barred window? The answer is sound. So no matter how careful the killer was, if the windows were open, the jig would be up. And since the windows in both defendant lobby number 1 and the hallway were open, that explains how the sound of a gunshot could be heard in both locations.
So that means the missing evidence and the gunshot could be heard.
The missing piece of evidence is a video that shows the moment in which Mr. Rell killed the embassy staff member. The sound of the gunshot left quite an impression on me when it was played during the trial. The video should have been returned to Mr. Faraday's evidence bag for the recess and brought back here. If it disappeared after that time, then it's possible that the tape is still here in this room. Eureka! The evidence that the missing evidence created for me is the gunshot that no one should have been able to hear in the first place.
Miles, what have you been thinking about?
Stop wasting time thinking and let's start looking again.
It's not a waste of time to think, for I have figured out where we should look.
And where would that be?
I believe we should examine the television. TV. Well, you kids have fun. Go ahead, examine whatever you like. Final investigation. I won't rest until I've inspected every suspicious looking nook and cranny. So we should look at the VCR.
This video player. And there seems to be a videotape inside. It looks like it. The tape must have stopped on its own when it reached the end. This tape. Could it not be the missing surveillance tape? I suppose, but...
Detective Bad, would it be alright with you if I verify the contents of this video? Sure, let's show that.
Alright, then let's rewind this and see what we have.
Oh, I remember correctly. The footage of Rail killing the embassy staff member. Oh god, everybody remembers how the VCR tapes worked back in the day? Should be at about the 30-minute mark from the start of the tape. Understood. It should be about right. Now then, let's see.
This is the footage of Mr. Rell shooting the embassy staff member.
I knew it.
The missing piece of evidence. The surveillance video was here all along.
This sound. What's the meaning of this? It appears that Detective Bad has figured out the true source of the gunshot he heard. With this, I think we can figure out the trick behind this double murder.
What do you mean? You figured it all out then?
Yes, all I have to do now is show what the gunshot Detectives Bad and Gumshoe heard was, and through where they heard it from.
Fine! In that case, show me what you deduced.
Now, to show what the gunshots Detective Bad and Gumshoe heard was, and through where they heard it. I won't rest until I've inspected every suspicious nook and cranny. Well, this is broom number 1. It's a spot, yeah. Because we got the video. If the door and windows to the crime scene, namely this room that we're in, were closed, the killer could have used the gun and no one could have... The killer could have used the gun and no one would have been the wiser.
That's true. This courthouse does seem to be that's true. This courthouse does seem to be well designed for such thing as a well.
However, what happened in reality was Detective Gumshoe, Detective Bad, and Miss Yu. All 3 of them heard the gunshot.
Then, the windows in lobby number 1 and 2 and the hallway were open. So naturally, the people in those locations could hear it.
Ah, but then why would the criminal open the window in the first place?
To allow the gunshot to be heard, I suppose.
Correct? That's the only logical conclusion we can draw from this.
But why was it necessary in the first place? I want a real answer, Miles. I demand satisfaction!
Satisfaction is no man can actually do for you. I'm sorry.
Very well, I believe that the killer wanted to manipulate our perception of a certain fact.
What is that the killer wanted to manipulate our perception of? When the crime took place. The killer wanted to fabricate the time of death to their precise wishes. And they used the gunshot in the surveillance video to do so.
So that's why the tape was left running.
You mean the gunshot I heard? That's from this video. Yes, which means that the murders really occurred at an earlier time than we thought. It must have been during the recess, but before Detective Gumshoe was on guard duty. Someone who has no alibi for that time period and planned this crime out in advance. That person is the real killer. Mr. Edgeworth! Yes, what is it? Miss Hughes asked for you. She's in the courtroom. She says that she identified the murderer, but that she wants to clarify something. Looks like Miss Hughes still investigating something. Understood. Please tell her that I will be right over. I'll come along. I want to hear what she has to say. It would appear that the time has come to uncover the truth. And we're about to end this. "15 minutes later, Okay. What are you doing here?
Oh, hello, mister. I'm still investigating.
But the object you're looking for is already... Okay. Don't mind. Please continue with your investigation.
Okay, you got it.
Detective Val, haven't we already found what you were looking for? If it means I can keep her in the dark just a little longer. Any little task will do.
Oh, you're more sympathetic than I thought. I've been waiting for you, Edgeworth.
I've also been waiting for the moment in which we can finally lay this case to rest.
The moment in which we can finally lay this case to rest. Wasn't that when we placed Detective Gumshoe under arrest? I think we've more than solved this case already. Don't you? There, see. It all depends on whether or not your logic holds. Oh, I see even we have a viewer in the gallery. And why even Mr. Bad's here? A viewer in the gallery? I am hardly just a bystander.
I have a duty to see this case through to the end. No matter how it turns out.
Oh, is that right? Anyway, I thought you might like to hear what I've slaved away to find out. I've taken statements on every single person's movements during the time when our suspect was in the hallway. I also confirmed that there is no possible route of escape from lobby number 2. Therefore, the killer must, without a doubt, be Detective Gumshoe.
And that is all you have.
Yeah, that is all there is to my conclusion and this case.
Sorry, but I beg to differ. In a trial, there is always time for rebuttal. And we are standing in a court of law. It'd be more than appropriate to follow the rules of court in this case, don't you think?
I'm absolutely like a rookie to take such thing. But alright, I'll play along and give you a proper testimony.
If my logic's correct, then I've already won. All I have to do now is to prove it by showing who the real killer is.
Everyone, sans the suspect, has an alibi for when the gun went off.
Yep. She's still annoying.
Furthermore, the areas around the crime scene have all been thoroughly investigated, right? I also confirmed that there is no escape possible from lobby number 2. Which leaves us with one unshakable conclusion. That Gumshoe is the killer. Now that you have your testimony, I expect a good rebuttal, Edgeworth.
But of course. There's no need to confront her logic head-on right now. I should instead focus on drawing out any trump cards she has up her sleeve. The suspect, right? I thought that Detective Gumshoe's alibi had already been proven.
Are you joking, Edgeworth?
I assure you this is no joke.
Look, I know you heard from the judge earlier that the detective was in the hallway with Mr. Fladay's daughter eating a Swiss roll.
Yes, that is correct.
But see, that was 20 minutes before the real gunshot went off, right? And the problem is there's no one else who could who can corroborate what he did since the snacking.
I see she's done her research well. Which means I should focus on drawing out whatever trump cards she's withholding.
Hold it!
Whether they have been thoroughly investigated or now is not the time for me to decide.
The scrunched eyebrows and lines on your forehead are back. Anyway, even if you believe it hasn't been exhaustive, the crime scene, lobby number 2, has no way out other than the hallway Detective Gumshoe was standing in. And because he claimed to be there, that makes him the only possible suspect.
But isn't it also possible that someone escaped through a garden But isn't it also possible that someone escaped through a window and into the garden?
That's the first place everyone looks silly. The police are a bunch of lazy bums. They looked into every possibility, you know. Isn't that right, Mr. Bad?
Yep. There wasn't a scrap of evidence to suggest someone used one of the windows. There also weren't any footprints or anything in the courtyard garden. I suppose they really did check everything that could be relevant to the case.
Hold it!
Are you absolutely positive that there are no possible routes of escape?
Of course, I'm sure.
And why are you so certain?
This is a courthouse, the place where criminals are brought to be judged. If there were an escape route, I am sure every criminal would be using it to escape. It's just common sense.
Meiji Mitsurugi, Miles Edgeworth.
I suggest you use a bit more of it in the future.
Gah!
Hold it!
You may think it's unshakable, but to me, there are still too many unanswered questions. For example, who was it that placed the gun in Mr. Faraday's hand?
But you're the only one still wondering about that. Detective Gumshoe probably had no idea which hand Mr. Faraday used to write with. Even if you know someone, it doesn't mean you'll know which hand they write with, right? I mean, I certainly don't care about that sort of thing.
I'm not about to let her get a rise out of me with such a flippant statement. I suppose we've really reached the end now. I already have my trump card ready. All that remains is to play it. But before I do, I think I should inquire into a little something about her argument. You said earlier that you confirmed the alibis of every person other than the suspect. However, I don't recall either Francisca or myself speaking with you about the subject. But there were witnesses. For you, there is your mentor who gave you an alibi. I see.
As for the little Missy, she came to the courthouse during recess. They was stopped by a security guard at the door to the hallway. She gave him quite a whipping for that, so I heard. I am the daughter of Manfred von Kalmar, and I will not be forcibly stopped by a guard or bailiff or anyone else.
Wait, so basically the only reason May bothered to show up today was because she found out that I was to be the replacement prosecutor. By the way, Miss Yu, what about everyone's alibis before Detective Gumshoe was assigned to guard duty?
What about them? have you looked into what people were doing during that span of time? What kind of idiot do you take me for? It doesn't matter when the killer went into lobby number 2. From the time we heard the gunshot to the time Mr. Bad and I arrived on the scene as we dashed from lobby number 1. The only person who could have committed the crime was Detective Gumshoe. Yes, let us talk about when you and Detective Bad heard that gunshot, shall we? I suppose that if we go by your logic, then Detective Gumshoe is the only one. However, what if the crime had occurred at an entirely different time than when that gunshot you heard went off? What then? That gunshot was a trap meant to manipulate opposite... Sadly, your explanation is very lacking, Edgeworth. The gunshot we heard in lobby number 1, care to explain how that could have been fabricated?
Sure, here.
Take that!
That tape?
What in the blue bloody fuck are you doing, girl? You... What? What?
Yes, it's exactly what you think it is. This is the surveillance tape of Mr. Rell the prosecution presented in today's trial. This was found loaded in the video player in lobby number 2. That was connected to the large television that had its volume turned all the way up. You can't honestly mean that the sound we heard was the gunshot in the video? Ah, but I do. Which leads me to my next point. The murders occurred much earlier than when anyone heard the gunshot.
What in the blue bloody... That's the only thing I can think of, too.
After committing double homicide, the killer took the surveillance video out from Mr. Faraday's evidence bag, turned the television volume all the way up, and left the video to play. If played from the beginning, it would take 30 minutes from the gunshot sound to come on. And since we now know that this method of time manipulation is possible, it opens up the possibility that the killer is someone other than Detective Gumshoe. Sounds from a television doesn't amount to much here. But of course, Mr. Prosecutor Edgeworth and Little Miss Veronica Harima already knew that much from the very beginning, right? Of course we know. Did we, mice?
Of course we did. We know about the soundproof quality of this courtroom's room. This courthouse rooms. Of course, I'm not about to admit that we had no idea until a little while ago.
That's right. And if the rooms are soundproof, then we should not have been able to hear it. And yet we heard the gunshot clear as day. And that's it. End of story.
But it's not. How should I explain why she was able to hear such a gunshot from a soundproof room? The window was open.
There is actually one common point between lobby number 1 and 2. And that is, despite the fact that both rooms have air conditioners installed, a window was open in each. Now, we know that the window in lobby number 2 was opened by the killer. However, a window in lobby number 1 was also opened.
Objection!
It's probably just coincidence that they were both open at the same time.
Objection!
It was no mere coincidence, I assure you. Why was the window open in lobby number 1? The answer is that a certain person did something to cause the window to be opened. And the person who triggered the action
that person is the real guilty party. The real killer in this double murder is... You did it!
Take that!
Callista, you! I hereby formally indict you of the murder of Mr. Faraday and Miss Terrell.
What? You indict me? Are you serious, Miles? Do you think she is the killer?
I don't understand her motive just yet. But of course I'm serious. Because she is the only one who could have done it. Well, Miss Yu, do you still feel like laughing now?
Of course I do, Edgeworth.
Yeah, I know. Where's that laugh now? It's like... So what's up? I was just doing my lips. My argument must not be tight enough yet.
Although I never thought things would spiral into this. But I'll have you know I'm enjoying this dance quite a bit. I guess this means it's time for my own rebuttal now, right?
Final rebuttal!
You argued that the window was open, however. Do you have any proof it was I who did that? Furthermore, do you have proof that the tape was used in committing the crime? Frankly, I'm shocked at you for going around accusing people of murder like this. Especially with logic as full of holes as yours.
This is where it really starts. I mustn't let my guard down for even a second, or the truth will blow away. Now is the time to put the patented Von Karma perfect proof to the test. Rebut all! Well, it's easy how. You're sent!
Objection!
I'm sure you've seen this before, haven't you, Miss Yu?
It's rough. I never knew you were into wearing that kind of perfume. It's not exactly what I'd recommend for boys, you know.
What? This is mine?
That's right, it's mine, and I received it from Detective Bart, you see.
Miss Yu, you can pretend all you like. But we know at least this much for sure. That this bottle of perfume was given to Detective Bad by you.
Because it gets really strong really fast. So, what about the perfume?
Well, you were in lobby number 1 and you made a big show spilling some of this perfume. That's according to Detective Bad.
Oh, I know.
You also know that if you spilled it, he would naturally move to open a window.
Objection!
Come now, I've already told you. That's all just a big coincidence. After we opened the window in lobby number 1, I just left it open, you know? So maybe it was just dumb luck that we heard the gunshot through the window.
Objection!
The timing of when you were going to spill the perfume is something you could control. And the most important fact about this case is when people were made to hear the shot. Furthermore, it would have been pointless if you didn't have an alibi for yourself at the time. You mean, Miss Yu, you were the one who called Detective Bad into lobby number 1 when you saw him bring Detective Gumshoe into the hallway. Is that correct? All of today's premeditated events could only have been thought up by you, Miss You.
You accuse me of murder on the fact that I spilled a little perfume. Well, allow me to say this much. I couldn't have killed Mr. Faraday.
Would you care to testify as to why?
Look, I've had a lot of fun today, really. But I grow weary of this game of cat and mouse. Let's make this the last testimony and wrap up this absurd case once and for all.
Why it couldn't be me?
Accusing someone of murder over a spilled bottle of perfume, it's a bit over the top. But I suppose forgery of evidence is to be expected of a disciple of Karma. In any case, it simply could not have been me who killed Mr. Faraday. After all, I don't even know where the knife that was used to kill him came from. Myers, her testimony is flawless.
Yes, but no matter what sort of trick she may try to pull, she won't escape me. And if I'm lacking in information, I'll just draw out of her. Rebut all! At this rate, she will inevitably escape. But if she really was the one who killed Mr. Faraday, then she must have known about the existence of the knife. I'm sorry, Miss Yu. Maybe you weren't aware. However, the knife that was used to kill Mr. Faraday was taken from its evidence bag.
Myers, what do you think you're doing?
I'm drawing the truth out of her, that's what I'm doing.
Son, but I don't recall a knife being presented at the trial earlier today.
Ho ho! Well, I suppose that's because the evidence was something Mr. Faraday had yet to use.
Oh, so that's what you were trying to do? Look, why don't you cut it out with the lies? I've already figured you out. There was no knife inside Mr. Faraday's evidence bag. The only evidence he had yet to present was the key the Yatagarasu had sent. And unless a key can magically turn into a knife, you really don't have a leg to stand on. Did you really think you could trap me? Come now, be honest.
I never intended to do such thing. It was all a misunderstanding on my part. In any case, I wonder if you might append what you just said to your testimony.
Sure, why not? I'll even say it as many times as you like.
There was a key in the evidence bag, but you simply can't kill anyone with a simple key. Ho ho! Can I? No. Ho ho! Miss Yu, I wonder if you might take a look at this photo for me. This is a picture of the key the Yatagarasu sent to the police. However, while it may look like a key at first glance, it in fact has the secret ability to transform into a knife. Which means that was inside Mr. Faraday's bag was both the Yatagarasu key
and the murderous knife. You knew about that key. You knew that the key was inside Mr. Faraday's bag, did you not?
Yes.
Well, with the Yatagarasu key alone, it's more than possible to kill Mr. Faraday. Do you understand now, just knowing of the existence of the Yatagarasu's key?
I still haven't had a good look at it. Showing it to me from that far away, you could be alive for all I know.
You would even now still feign ignorance?
I'm not feigning anything! But we can't have you accusing me of a crime with false evidence now, can we? I mean, Mr. Von Karma, I've heard some very interesting rumors about it. Are you mocking my papa?
Don't you dare sully the good name of my mentor!
Now take a good look. This piece of evidence is more than real.
Wow. You know, that was such a trick to this thing.
Are you satisfied now? But of course, you knew from the very beginning, didn't you? You knew that the knife and the Yatagarasu's key are one and the same. Otherwise, someone like you, who isn't a member of law enforcement and who would never have been privy to this trick, would have never known about it to begin with.
That's still stupid as all get out.
Furthermore, there's something that the Yatagarasu said to the police. How did you have knowledge as to what it was?
Actually, I heard it from Mr. Faraday. Just before he dragged Mr. Rell off, he told me. Oh, that's right, I almost forgot. He also told me about the key turning into a knife at the time. But he didn't tell me about how the key actually transformed.
What you are saying is simply not possible.
Oh, and why not?
Because Mr. Faraday himself didn't know about the hidden knife within the key. For within these pages, he mentions nothing about a knife.
I'm not sure he would have written everything in his organizer, you know? It wouldn't something of this importance be better left to oral communication?
Unfortunately, that is also impossible. Because Detective Bad didn't know about the knife aspect either. What would have been highly classified information even within the police force? And is something that even the lead detective on the case didn't know. Why would Mr. Faraday have felt the need to share such information with the opposition?
Yeah, I guess she wouldn't have much reason to. Looks like I gave a pretty lame excuse.
How can you laugh at a time like this?
She's probably just realized the flaw in her logic and is actually in a panic over it. But that's not something we need to concern ourselves with.
I suppose you're right. Monsieur,
I'd like to state that I also know how you know the real nature of the knife.
Do you now? Well, why don't you put your money where your mouth is and show me?
Oh, I will. And I'll wipe that smile off your face by the time we're through. Unzip. This is it. The moment of the truth. The secret behind the Yatagarasu's key. Only one person would have knowledge of it from the get-go. Who would know from the start what the Yatagarasu's key could change into but the Yatagarasu himself?
Take that!
there's only one person who would have known about the dual nature of the key.
And that is?
And that is the person who sent the Yatagarasu's key to the police. That is to say, the Yatagarasu herself! So now that we know that the Yatagarasu is actually a female.
Are you saying that this lawyer is the great thief Yatagarasu?
Miss you used Miss Terrell to lure Mr. Faraday into a trap, didn't you? You who profess to bear a grudge against criminals. Why? Why do something like this?
Who would have thought that you, a stupid rookie prosecutor, would see through me? You're sending the biggest chill down my spine right now. It's sure, this feeling of thrill, it's even greater than when I sneak into someplace.
You kill Faraday! Why? Answer me! Curse you!
Curtis to you, huh? That's not my real name. Because my real identity is, yes, the great thief Yatagarasu. Let me tell you something, Edgeworth. Mr. Faraday was one difficult man to deal with. For you see, he had discovered my true identity, which is why I had to erase him from the world of law. I had Rel an offer. I made Rel an offer. An acquittal for the little favor in return. All he had to do was accuse Mr. Faraday of being the Yatagarasu in court. But once we entered the recess, Rel was dragged off by Mr. Faraday, which threw my plan into a complete mess. I chased after them and eavesdropped on them through a crack in the door. That Rel caved to only two things: money and authority, just as all thugs do. I feared my plan was going to be ruined if Mr. Faraday held on to Rel any longer. Plus, if I had to let them continue on the way they were, I would have been found out. That's why I had no choice. I had to kill them both.
But didn't you say that you despise criminals?
But do I really?
Have you forgotten about the KG-8 incident too?
Maybe. What sort of woman would...
So then, was it your plan to kill Mr. Faraday with the very evidence that you sent?
Well, I had a good idea of what Mr. Faraday was going to do. I anticipated that Mr. Faraday was going to prove that Mr. Rel wasn't the Yatagarasu by using this Yatagarasu's key as evidence, and that he would bring it with him. Which is why I thought to use the knife portion with a weapon that, as well disguised as this, no one would be the wiser. Because who in their right mind would think something like this could be a weapon? I casually entered lobby number 2 on the pretext that I had to talk with Mr. Faraday. And in order to get in with him, I pretend to be worried about something. He then let me hold the Yatagarasu's key just like that. He never noticed that I changed the key into a knife inside the plastic bag. And he didn't have the chance to take note of the knife that took his life.
How could you kill him?
I knew him for a long time, you know. At the very least, I thought to give him a quick and painless death.
But if you killed Mr. Faraday first, there was no need for you to kill Mr. Rell as well.
I believe I mentioned why when we were placing Detective Gumshoe under arrest. Something about having accidentally created an eyewitness, and how that led the killer to think about setting them up as though they killed each other.
Then the trick with the surveillance tape?
Yes, I hadn't actually planned to use a gun. The risk was too high and I'd be caught. However, that's when I remembered the existence of that surveillance tape. Which is why I had Rell help me set up the crime scene. And after all said and done, I rewarded him for all his hard work with a bullet.
You're a defense attorney, aren't you? How could you? How could you betray a client?
Client! If you want to talk about who was a client of who's first, it was me. I was the client in the murder of the Kodopian Embassy staff member, Dead Man.
You ordered a hit job.
You still haven't figured it out, Mr. Bad. I had Dead Man killed because he was about to give away info about the smuggling ring. Now, who exactly do you think would benefit from such an assassination?
You're...
That's right. I'm a member of the smuggling ring.
What? How could... You don't mean... You're working with Mad Coaching, too.
Maybe not. Guess you'll never know. The Yatagarasu claims to be noble, but you're just another cold-blooded murderer. That's right, little girl. The Yatagarasu is just another killer.
Be quiet. You! Yatagarasu! You can run from the law, but you'll never escape it. So, just humbly accept the judgment of this court. Yeah, I know, right? She is a crooked bitch. She is really a crooked bitch.
Hey, Ed Sheriff. Did you know the Yatagarasu has 3 legs? Do you know why that is? No. Well, let me tell you. It means that the Yatagarasu has more than one razor-sharp way to do her work.
Holy shit, she pulled the gun.
You really are too naive, Edgeworth. You even handed the Yatagarasu's key right to me without a second thought. Everything may not have gone according to plan, but I'll still gladly take it.
You mean the key was your real target? She pulled Adalia. The bitch pulled Adalia Hawthorne.
And
And even after I gave you such great advice, didn't I always tell you to always keep a good eye on a criminal? Or you may regret what comes of your negligence.
You two, down! My body! I can't move!
Hey, mister, to your right!
You! Are you alright, Francisca?
I'm perfectly fine, Luigi.
Her voice is shaking, but it looks like she's unharmed. Where did Kate go? That's a gunshot! An hour, 45 minutes later. Sorry, but it looks like she got away. I called the precinct. They should have a perimeter set up soon. Detective Bad, are you alright? I heard a gunshot! I'm okay. Just got another hole in my jacket. He may say he's fine, but he may say he's fine, but he looks quite shaken. More importantly, Mr. Edgeworth. Miss Von Karma. Are you two hurt?
I'm absolutely fine.
Yeah, really? It's like, it's like, okay, you had one job. You mean to tell me you couldn't tackle her? Seriously, you couldn't just tackle her like, boom, 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 boom. Flying tackle, that's all you had to do.
I'm absolutely fine.
I'm also alright, thanks to Kay. Speaking of Kay, where is she? I don't know, she just sort of disappeared. I'll go look for her. Owen, hey. Detective Gumshoe. Yes, sir! Detective Bass, sir! I'm sorry, Judge. Don't worry, sir! It's not your fault!
I lied to you guys too, after all.
I heard about what happened from Kay. Lying while giving testimony is still. But in this case, you were protecting Kay and her feelings. Looks like you might have what it takes to be a real detective. No, he does not. We've known throughout the Ace Attorney series, Gumshoe has a track record this long. He's still batting 0 for 6. Now, don't you ever lose that detective spirit, okay? You got it, Pops!
Pops, watch one too many detective dramas recently, have you?
Way to single-handedly destroy the cheery atmosphere with one snarky comment. I'm sorry, but she's not snark enough to hang with us. I'm sorry. The only two people around here in this group that can actually snark proper are me and 40. We're the only two people who can actually snark proper. I should get back to the investigation. I swear, I'll catch you if it's the last thing I do. No, but I think Kazuma Kiryu does. I'm pretty sure. You put her in the world of Yakuza. Oh, her ass would be down just like that. Like no fucks given, no fucks cared. Like you just got popped. Guess what? Your ass just got popped. Yep, I remember the first Steel Samurai case. Be careful, Detective Bad, and take care. Thanks. Well, I'm off. We'll run into each other again someday.
Thanks a bunch, pal. You're the best. You really did find out the truth behind everything.
Yes, well, I'm glad we solved everything before you were taken to prison. I can't believe how much trouble I caused you with my testimony, Detective Gumshoe.
It was no problem, really. I mean, I lied too, so I didn't help anything. It's really not your fault, Your Honor.
Then, even if we didn't have his honest testimony, I think the lawyer would have found another way to get you convicted on her behalf.
Yeah, I can't believe I was about to get fired during my first week as a detective.
Yeah, you have a better track record than Leon Kennedy. Remember how his first day went? He came into a zombie apocalypse. And it happened starting with the police precinct. Well, as long as you're not fired. You should work hard, give all you have, and perform your duties well. Whatever that is. Oh, and one more thing. Kay left a present for you with me. She did. Oh! What is it? Was it that Kay left for me the proof of their friendship? If it's still good to use, here.
Take that!
It's a courthouse special Swiss roll! Can I really have it? Yes, it's a present meant for you after all. Thanks a bunch! You have no idea how happy this makes me, pal! I'm gonna eat this right now! Sure, go ahead. That thing's probably hard as a brick right now. Swiss Rose, Detective Gumshoe, and Kay both together. Well, the one Kay saved never reached her father. It would appear that her sentiments have touched the heart of this detective.
He's so happy. It's as though he's having a welcome back celebration of his own.
Well, I was asked by Kay to give it to him. Woohoo! That was good, pal! Our brick was good! Can't believe I got to eat two of these delicious things in one night. Like I was Swiss roll paradise or something. You do realize that thing is a brick brownie right now? I gotta take care of myself. Hey, wait. Where is she? He only noticed just now. Was this wrong non-present when we discussed her earlier? Detective Bad got left to go search for her earlier. Maybe you should go join him.
Yeah, you betcha, pal. I'm gonna go help him. Oh, but first, you know what, pal? Actually, I guess I shouldn't be so rude to you anymore, huh? I'm gonna stick right by your side from now on, Mr. Edgeworth, sir!
I sense nothing but a moan. I sense nothing but a most troublesome relationship from that ominous statement. He knew! It's like, I'm gonna stick with you, sir! Oh, God, no.
We should go home too, Mice. We have to report. We have to hurry and report what's happened to Papa.
Agreed. Well, I'm afraid we must be going now, Detective. Roger, sir! Don't you worry! This next case we're on real well! Big counting on you. Santa trouble is definitely in the air. Thus, like a bad dream, my first outing at court came to a disturbing end. A few months later, I was finally able to properly stand in court as a prosecutor. But the detective in charge of the investigation was, as I dreaded, Detective Gumshoe. After that, he became my direct subordinate. I have tried, but words fail to describe the immeasurable suffering he has caused me. But I suppose that's just how things are. As for the little girl who suddenly disappeared, she's now... who we know now is the Yatagarasu. Kei Faraday.
So, do you remember now?
Yes, I remember everything. Man, that was one fucked up flashback. God damn! She is Yatagarasu. But my God, it took a flashback just to realize, oh hey, do you remember now? What? Okay, it's been a while. Kay! You sure grow up fast. You sure grow up a lot.
Of course! But thank goodness I thought you two have totally forgotten about me.
You know, I was really worried about you after all that. Where have you been all this time?
Gummy, I didn't know you cared. After my father died, I went to go live with my mother's relatives. They live really far away, so I wasn't really able to come back here all that much.
Oh, is that what happened? Well, I'm just glad you're all right.
So, does it all make sense now?
You bet you does.
Oh, you know what? I was going through my father's bookshelf recently and...
Hold it!
Actually, there's still a number of things that don't make sense, Kay. Oh. First of all, why did you come all this way to see me? And second, why are you calling yourself the Yatagarasu? The Yatagarasu is Karista Yu, the woman who killed your father.
No, you're wrong. The real Yatagarasu was my father.
Eh? Mr. Faraday was the Yatagarasu?
Like I said, I was going through my father's bookshelves recently, and I found a secret diary hidden among his books. I have no regrets in choosing to walk the path of the Yatagarasu. That was written in the diary, and that's how I know for sure.
She is the second Yatagarasu. But that's impossible!
What's with that look? You don't believe me?
It wasn't just the expression on my face. I clearly said it was impossible just now.
Alright then. How do you explain this?
It's a way of disarming any security system of the user's choosing.
Yep. That's Little Thief. Truth be told, this is the Yatagarasu's greatest weapon.
Weapon, secret, it's all the same.
Yep, that's Little Thief. Truth be told, this is the Yatagarasu's greatest secret. And this little gizmo was used by my father.
Wow! Mr. Faraday wasn't just a great prosecutor. He really was a great thief, huh?
Yeah, my father really worked hard to steal the truth. But he was killed, and the Yatagarasu was no more. But despite that, the Yatagarasu has been spotted again recently.
Someone other than you.
Here, Mr. Edgeworth. Take a look at this article.
Oh God, no. Yatagarasu sends card to embassy. The Yatagarasu sent the embassy a calling card.
Yeah, I mean, this person's a fake. I'm almost certain that Callista you lady's behind this. Because the real Yatagarasu would never send something like a gaudy card like that.
But the Yatagarasu did send a white card, along with anything to be publicized. That's what Detective Bat told me 7 years ago. Serves.
Well, as soon as I heard the news, I got all wound up and I knew I couldn't just let it go. So I searched you out, so that I could obtain the truth behind the Yatagarasu. Because if anyone can help me find it, I figured you, Mr. Edgeworth.
So you're saying that I have your father and Miss Yu's identity backwards?
Yes, because the real Yatagarasu is noble to the end.
And these would never actually take lives.
And I want to revive the real noble Yatagarasu. If I don't, my father will never be able to rest in peace.
Kate, you're so honorable. I don't care what anyone else thinks. I'll always be there to cheer you on, pal. Even if you are honorable, a thief's still a thief. And if you're plotting to commit a crime, then I'm afraid I can't be complicit. Mr. Edgeworth. Oh, you guys are not making it easy for me. Who am I supposed to support now?
Mr. Edgeworth, what I want from you is not to steal something. What I want is the arrest of that evil woman.
That evil woman. You mean Callista Yu? Well, now this all makes sense. We're going after the Joker.
I think it's too hard for me to catch her all by myself. But I thought that since you were able to expose her for who she is, then maybe... Please, Mr. Edgeworth, won't you help me?
Come to think of it, I do believe I owe you.
Huh? Help me for what?
When Miss Yu made her escape, it was you who saved my life. Furthermore, you helped me with the investigation today. I am not so rude as to leave favors unrepaid.
Then you mean...
Yes. That case has been weighing down my soul ever since that fateful day. Perhaps the time has come to settle things once and for all. If you don't intend to sully your hands in a crime, then I believe I can help you.
Mr. Edgeworth, thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Edgeworth, sir! Isn't that great, Kate?
Yeah, it sure is, Gummy.
Even though he had completely forgotten about her until just now. What is with that silly relationship? The great thief Yatagarasu. After all that time, the true identity of the thief sank back into the darkness. Ban Faraday, Callista Yu, N.K. Faraday. The phantasmagorically changing identity of the great thief Yatagarasu. And the Yatagarasu's real goal. 'Twould all come to light the day after I made that promise to Kay. And that leads us to the final case, which is going to be stupidly tell. Turnabout ablaze. So that means Wednesday. Yes, Wednesday, because I feel after this, oh, this is going to be stupid. But it's going to be good. It's going to be that stupid kind of good. So next time, which is pretty, yeah, this is going to be, yeah. This is one that's going to definitely take a while. As with all Ace Attorney cases, this is going to take at least 3 or so Wednesdays. Here's hoping. And just in case. Episode 5 is going to be, yeah, this week coming in. So tomorrow, we're going to have the second half of Can We Throw Susato Over the Bridge? So tomorrow, yeah, we're going to have Daigakuten Saibon. The second half of the second case. Oh, God. We're going to throw her ass right off the boat and make her swim for it. So with that, thanks for joining me, and I will definitely see you next time when we throw some other crazy bitch off the roof.